Breaking news! The atmosphere behind the scenes is one of anticipation for the draft and the next season. With lots of speculation and some moves, the week starts with big updates for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll tell you everything that's happening, but first, I want to know your opinion. If you believe that Lamar Jackson should stay with the Baltimore Ravens for 2025, hit the like button. If possible, write something like this: Go Ravens! Go Lamar Jackson! Dude, despite his age, I believe he can still help us a lot in 2025. I still have the dream of winning the Super Bowl with him. But anyway, we'll talk more about him later. Now, let's talk about this subject. In the last few hours, we received the news that the team officially hired Tyler Santucci as its new inside linebackers coach, replacing Mark DeLeon, who was fired after just one season. Santucci, a young but highly respected defensive mind, arrives with an impressive coaching resume despite being only 36 years old. He most recently served as the defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech and, prior to that, held key defensive roles at Duke and Texas A&M. But what really makes this hire exciting is that Santucci is known for his energetic approach and ability to develop young defensive talent, something the Ravens will certainly want to capitalize on as they continue to build one of the most feared defenses in the NFL. This move comes on the heels of another major coaching addition, Chuck Pagano, who was brought in as the team's new senior secondary coach. Pagano is a familiar name to Ravens fans, having previously served as the team's defensive coordinator before becoming the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. He brings a wealth of experience and leadership to Baltimore's defensive staff, adding a veteran presence alongside the younger, up-and-coming coaches. With Pagano guiding the secondary and Santucci working with the linebackers, the Ravens' defensive staff is shaping up to be a powerhouse. Now, while the defensive coaching staff is seeing some fresh faces, the offensive side of the ball is expected to remain largely intact. Offensive coordinator Todd Monken has been extended after an extremely successful season where Baltimore's offense ranked in the top 3 in several categories, including total yards per play and scoring. The offensive line coach, who was brought in mid-season after the unfortunate passing of Joe Dallasandres, is also expected to stay on board. This continuity should be a huge advantage, especially as quarterback Lamar Jackson continues to thrive in Monken's system. Speaking of continuity, there's a major question mark looming over the offensive line. Reports have surfaced that left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who is now a free agent, could command over $21 million per year on the open market. The Ravens paid him around $19 million annually on his last deal, but with his injury history and the team's focus on getting younger in the trenches, it's uncertain whether they'll be willing to pay that kind of money to bring him back. Baltimore could look to the draft, where they hold the 27th overall pick, to find a long-term solution at left tackle. Historically, the Ravens have been excellent at evaluating and developing offensive linemen, so it wouldn't be a surprise if they went in that direction. Another option would be shifting right tackle Morgan Moses over to the left side. Moses has experience playing left tackle and possesses the athleticism and technique to handle the position, but that would then create another hole at right tackle. Could Baltimore trust Daniel Falale, who has been developing as a swing lineman, to step in as a full-time starter, or would they look to free agency for a stopgap solution? There's also the question of Patrick McCrary, a versatile lineman who played a key role as a backup but is now a free agent himself. The Ravens' offensive line situation remains one of the biggest question marks heading into the offseason, along with the need to find another starting cornerback, now that Brandon Stephens is also set to hit free agency. What makes this whole situation even more intriguing is that Baltimore has a whopping 11 draft picks to work with. That gives them plenty of flexibility to address their needs and possibly make a move to trade up if there's a prospect they truly believe in. With free agency right around the corner in March, the next few weeks are going to be critical for the Ravens as they look to solidify their roster for another deep playoff run. So, what do you think, Ravens fans? Do you like the addition of Tyler Santucci to the coaching staff? Should the team bring back Ronnie Stanley, or is it time to move on and invest in the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. Another key factor in the Ravens' decision-making this offseason revolves around their salary cap situation. With Ronnie Stanley potentially commanding over $21 million per year on the open market, Baltimore has to weigh whether it's worth investing that much in a player who has struggled with injuries in recent seasons. If they decide to move on, they could free up cap space to address other critical needs, such as finding another starting cornerback or adding depth at wide receiver. One name that continues to generate buzz among Ravens fans is Trenton Simpson. With the addition of Tyler Santucci as the new inside linebackers coach, all eyes will be on Simpson's development. The young linebacker showed flashes of potential last season, and with the right coaching, he could become a key piece of Baltimore's defense moving forward. Pairing him alongside Roquan Smith, who will be looking for a bounce-back season, could give the Ravens one of the most dynamic linebacker duos in the league. Santucci's track record of developing young talent is exactly what Simpson needs at this stage of his career, and it will be interesting to see how that unfolds once training camp begins. But let's not forget the secondary, which also faces some uncertainty. Bringing in Chuck Pagano as the new senior secondary coach was a brilliant move by John Harbaugh. Pagano's history with the Ravens runs deep, and his experience coaching elite defensive backs could be exactly what Baltimore needs to keep their defense among the league's best. However, there's still the issue of depth at cornerback. Brendan Stephens is a free agent, and while the Ravens could attempt to re-sign him, they might also look to the draft or free agency for a younger, more affordable option. One thing is certain, Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office are not afraid to make bold moves. With 11 draft picks at their disposal, they have plenty of flexibility to reshape the roster as needed. If they decide to invest in an offensive tackle early in the draft, that could signal the end of Ronnie Stanley's time in Baltimore. But if they hold off on drafting a lineman, it could mean they're still considering bringing him back on a short-term deal. And then there's free agency. The Ravens have traditionally been selective when it comes to big-money free agents, preferring to build through the draft and develop their own talent. But with several key positions needing reinforcement, they could look to add a veteran presence at either cornerback or the offensive line. If they can find a cost-effective solution at one of those spots, it could allow them to use their draft picks more strategically, possibly even packaging some to move up for a top-tier talent. The next few weeks will be crucial for Baltimore as they lay the groundwork for another potential Super Bowl run. With Lamar Jackson coming off an MVP-caliber season and the team's core largely intact, the Ravens are in prime position to contend. The question is whether they can make the right moves to fill the gaps and put together a roster capable of finishing the job this time around. So, Ravens fans, what's your take? Should Baltimore prioritize the offensive line in the draft, or do they need to go after a cornerback first? And what about Ronnie Stanley? Should the team work out a deal to bring him back, or is it time to move on? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. Another major factor in all of this is how the Ravens will manage their financial flexibility heading into free agency. While Baltimore has been excellent at drafting and developing talent, they're also in a position where key roster spots need immediate attention. If the front office believes they can still contend for a Super Bowl with this core, they might be more aggressive in free agency than usual. But that raises another question: how do they balance their short-term needs with long-term sustainability? One of the biggest debates among fans right now is what to do about Ronnie Stanley. Paying over $21 million per year for a player with his injury history is a tough sell, especially when the team has to consider extensions for other key players in the coming years. However, letting him walk creates an immediate hole at left tackle, and the Ravens will have to determine whether their in-house options or the draft can provide a reliable replacement. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to stay tuned for more updates as we break down every move the Ravens make this offseason. This team is on the verge of something special. Let's see how they put the final pieces together.